What is up, everyone? Welcome to Neon Gaming Dimension. This is a Neon topic podcast, our discussion show where we break down the biggest topics in the games industry. This week, I'm your host, Gage Luke, aka Luke Shot First, and I'm joined by Jacob Jones, the producer supreme.
What's up? I got a Red Bull today, guys. It's kind of
Nice.
off brand for me.
Off brand. Yeah,
Typically.
that's my energy drink of choice.
Taurine.
What up, Thailand? And also Steven, the SingerBro is here. Let's go.
Yeah, so I had cacao this morning, so I'm all pumped.
Nice. Hell yeah. I did a cacao ceremony in Central America. It was pretty heavy. It
Oh,
was cool. It's
I
like
like cows.
yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Well, as much as it's great to see you guys and good to be here talking about stuff, we are talking about some sad news, the end of an era today. As with many things in the games industry and games media industry this year, there's been a lot of closures and just some bummer situations, layoffs up the wazoo, mismanagement, corporate consolidation, all sorts of horrible things in a lot of ways. But this one's kind of a little bit more of a sentimental one. Also, this is kind of a topic that I think we all kind of knew inevitably we would get here at some time, but the way that this kind of broke down was not great. So we are going to be talking about the closure of America's last major print offering. I mean, I know there's a couple, but left, but the last major one that I know of, and that's Game Informer magazine and their .com respectively. So yeah, how'd you guys feel about this news when it first hit you this week?
Not
Inevitable.
Not good.
Not good, but inevitable, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen the decline in print in general. I mean, obviously, people have their .com offerings and whatnot, but I don't know if PC Gamer puts out a magazine anymore. I mean, I know they're a pretty big website. I'm trying to think of like what else, like what other ones are still around. I mean, I know EGM obviously is gone. I think I don't know if any of the official Xbox or official PlayStations, they don't put out magazines anymore.
It does look like there is a print magazine. So it says subscribe to PC Gamer magazine for $6.50 for 3 months.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. There you go.
And that was
okay.
No, so that was August 30th, 2019. So maybe not.
Yeah, there you go. Pandemic might have killed that one.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, in the UK and other parts of the world, there are still big gaming publications that are going on, but it feels like Game Informer was the last big holdout here, and I think one of the reasons for that was its ties to GameStop. Yep, I always mess that up. So yeah, GameStop and their whole whatever points card that you get with it, their extra points or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a sad day for it to end. So I mean, I'm gonna read this statement real fast. We'll talk about this, but this was posted on the Game Informer website and was the only thing that was featured there ever since the closure happened. So this is the final level farewell from Game Informer. After 33 thrilling years of bringing you the latest news, reviews, and insights from the ever-evolving world of gaming, it is with heavy heart that we announce the closure of Game Informer. From the early days of pixelated adventures to today's immersive virtual realms, we've been honored to share this incredible journey with you, our loyal readers. While our presses may stop, the passion for gaming that we've cultivated together will continue to live on. Thank you for being part of our epic quest, and may your own gaming adventures never end. So this was posted. However, shortly afterwards, a bunch of Game Informer employees came out on Twitter and were pretty much like, this, we didn't write this. It came from, some corporate level, whatever. It wasn't passed by a lot of the people. So they were kind of mad about it. There was a lot of people like, saying it's bullshit. So, and now there's also a big movement going on where, because the .com is just showing this, and there are people getting in trying to get in the back end and archive and preserve all of the work that's sitting on that site. So, it's kind of a clusterfuck. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the more news that comes out about like the CEO and whatever the hell he was doing, like they're overvaluing themselves when they're bought by Sony. This guy's buying cars and shit. for millions of dollars and then laying off 220 people. It's just every second it goes worse and worse. Oh, well, that's the Bungie thing, actually.
I was gonna say that's
familiar.
Sorry, that's horrible too, by the way. And
Yeah.
that there's a little crossover because it's like all these companies are mismanaging their money and their people, and it's pissing me off. And it's like it's all happening at once, and everybody's losing their damn jobs. And with Game Informer, it's like I don't know, what happened there? Like,
Well, and the thing is
I don't
too is
know.
that their tie to GameStop has always been such an interesting thing because on the one hand it's
Mhm.
allowed them to kind of last longer than some other publications, but on the other hand they've had to deal with the fact that GameStop has been this sinking ship for a long
Yeah.
time, and then the whole tumult of the big investment thing that happened, and like the whole Reddit shorting and everyone getting GameStop stock and it going way back up, but then GameStop's whole strategy completely changed, right? They became like an NFT thing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
started just getting into all sorts of weird stuff on that end, and it was really much more about their presence in their stocks than it was them even being really a storefront anymore. You know what I mean? So many GameStops are closed around the world.
Mhm.
So it's just like we've seen recently Game Informer went kind of independent within that, and they started offering their own subscription thing
Mhm.
that was separate from the GameStop like membership. And I was a little worried when that happened because I was like, ooh, if that's happening, that means that GameStop is like moving away from having this be of anything of importance.
Yeah.
But I hope that would get people who cared about it to just kind of send them the money autonomously. But it seems like that wasn't good enough. So
Yeah, I'm looking at this CNN article. It said that in 2020, or let's see, unlike other magazines, Game Informer subscribers were tied to those who signed up for GameStop's Power Up reward service, which we know, right? So essentially, if you had the membership to GameStop, you would get the physical magazine. But then in 2020, they moved the magazine to a higher tier. So then less people were getting it. They're printing less actual magazines. And then eventually it went to a completely digital format. Physical Game Informer issues could still be bought separately at GameStop retail locations, and the magazine had recently started a physical subscription service of its own, which is also baffling because a lot of people were like, I saw a lot of comments online, people saying, oh, I was just going to subscribe to the new physical subscription. So it's like weird. Why would they set that up if they were going to lay everyone off very shortly after? It's just, I don't know. It just seems like GameStop just was running out of money, running out of time, and like options with what to do with this magazine. And it's sad that they blindsided the employees. Like someone was on a business trip.
Yeah, one of the main guys.
A lot of them found out via Twitter.
It's just so crazy to me that
that's what's bad
large
about
companies
it.
like this can do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's for the one thing, like it's disrespectful to your own brand and company. Like like the way that you sunset or end a project shows as much of like your, I don't know, shows as much about you as the way you attack it regularly or start it up. And it's just like one of those things where even if it wasn't making you any money anymore, wouldn't you want to like, dude, 33 years is nothing to like, wouldn't you want to like archive it, go out with some grace, go out with some ceremony of some kind? I just always find it odd that
it's fucking wild, dude. You've got you go to the website and like you said, it's just this banner, right? It's just a slap in the face to everything they've worked on for so many years, 33 now. And I listen to the podcast, I listen to them or to like different videos that they did, like the previews were always really, really, honestly, I would take Game Informer's opinion over a lot of other sites because they tend to be the most like middle ground when it comes to for certain things, and they would always speak their bias too when they would do articles about things too, like, hey, I'm a longtime fan of this, so obviously here's this like with that. But yeah, I do like, and it makes me wonder what is gonna happen to GameStop itself.
Yeah, I mean they've tried a couple of different things. I know Reggie Fils-Aimé was signed onto the board for a while as a consultant to like try and bolster them being more of like gaming hubs, like places you could go in public to try games and things like that. And I didn't even like at the game. This is anecdotal, but at the GameStops near me, I didn't see anything happen like that. Like that, they were talking about making like GameStop lounges and stuff.
That
Yeah,
could have been cool if they actually moved with the strategy. And I think there's a lot of, if you brand it right and market it right, you could still get money from that too, right?
totally. I just think that during the pandemic, with all that investment stuff and the shorting of the stock and all that, like it became a different game for them pretty quickly, as opposed to like how can we actually like run a sustainable slash like money making business. It just became like how can we get our stock and get out pretty much,
Yeah.
whatever. So
100%, dude.
So it's a weird one.
And Eric, our friend Eric in the chat said the same thing happened to Imran when he was with Fanbyte. They laid him off when he was overseas for a business trip. So, I mean, at the very least, like, can we just like, I don't know, do better with how we treat people, like how we fire people or like how we close a studio or something? Because it feels like it just kind of happens. Like,
and like even
Man.
if like literally you're like, okay, we have to cut and run, there's no more money, we can't pay people like any further than this, or like what other than severance or something, like even if literally your offices have to shut down, like just the way with which you message it to first and foremost to your employees, and then B, like giving them a little bit of like the ability to kind of sunset the brand or sunset the experience, it just feels like it feels so unceremonious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is leads back to like what you were saying. Reggie was with the company, right? Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Yeah, he is.
Who was there for, I was looking it up, less than a year, right? On the board of directors. He joined in March 2020 and left in 2021. He was one of the 3 people named to the board to replace directors leaving as part of the company's efforts to improve profitability, right? So he stepped down because company leaders, including the CEO, wouldn't share their vision or articulate the company's strategy, which is really telling. Which is like,
that means there is no vision, right?
Reggie's body was not ready. He was out before the end of the year. So I just think that I think that that's very telling. You don't even let your board of directors know what the hell your strategy is, what's going on, because you didn't know.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Game Informer, has been around since 1991. They had podcasts as well that went out, and other like just YouTube videos, and it's just it's a tough thing to see the end of in such a way. And while we're talking about the news about this and just kind of the mismanagement and all the garbage, I also wanted to take a minute and just like kind of talk about print media and what it's meant to you as a gamer or as an enthusiast, and then if you guys have any specific memories with Game Informer and just how you felt about the publication in general. So Jacob, what have you had any subscriptions ever to magazines, or do you remember picking them up, or what do you got?
So before I start talking, I'm just gonna pull this up, just so we can all feel like heartwarmed a little. We have this amazing outgoing message written by maybe AI, maybe by like a marketing person. I don't really know.
It does feel a little AI. Like it feels like I could plug in like 33 years, like shutting this down. Like mention something about gaming.
I forget who. I think it was Alex, who was one of
Alex
the guy. The guy from OK Beast with Blessing. He was saying like, because you read this and it says, what is it? From the early days of pixelated adventures to today's immersive virtual realms.
Right there,
He was like, his tweet was like, so I can't wait to go and explore some pixelated adventures and some virtual realms. Just basically shitting all over this thing. No one knows who wrote this. No one was notified of this message. Like they had a staff of writers. No one knows about it, so I just think
at
it's
least
really
have one
weird.
of the people who actually wrote for your fucking publication write the damn thing.
Yeah,
right. But they don't. They're too worried. I think maybe that someone would, throw
influence
some
or
light
whatever.
Yeah. But it says in the this is from Ethan Gotch in a Kotaku article. It says staff of the magazine, which also published a website, weekly podcast, and online video documentaries about the games and studios and developers, were called into a meeting on Friday with the parent companies GameStop's VP of HR, and that they were told the publication was closing immediately, and they were all laid off and would begin receiving severance terms. At least one of the staffers was in the middle of a work trip when the team was told. So yeah, pretty abrupt. You know,
Awful. But
and then
yeah.
the race from a couple of key staffers to archive all of this stuff is an interesting thing that's developing. So I don't know all the details right now, but it looks like they're trying hard to get into the back end before they lose access, I would assume, and like figure out how to archive all that stuff, because that's like another thing. Like, you know, when a publication, like say the New York Times were to shut down, like all of that like article stuff is secondhand source documents that like people are going to use in the future to like to catalog this history. And if you lose that, like, I mean, yeah, maybe the Wayback Machine or the Internet Archive would have it, but you know, it's harder and harder to find that stuff, and that stuff is important to like this is a history of an art form, right? That is happening. So, you know.
Yeah, but going back to your point though, I had a Game Informer. I think we've all had maybe like one of those GameStop cards at some point. So you know, I've done my share of getting Game Informers and reading them and being like, ooh, upcoming game, yeah, I get to learn about it and stuff like that. So like, you know, it was great. Haven't had a magazine subscription in over 10 years. So I mean, there's that aspect of all this, which is sad to say, but that's just how it is. Like, people aren't really subscribed to newspapers anymore or magazines much. But there was a time where I had my Game Informer and it was really cool. Like, I had Nintendo Power when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too.
You know, like, gaming magazines were really dope. It was like you always were with your mom in the department store, or like at the fucking what is it, the Walgreens or something, and you're like looking around. And when you're older, you're like, ooh, look, there's a hot chick there. Or then like when you're younger, you might see that game cover and you're like, oh, hey, look, there's Master Chief on here. And it's just always fun and to like pick up a cool magazine, you know, and the Game Informer and any of those type of gaming magazines were always like the cool ones to pick up. And having a subscription was really cool. I know that if I had more time to prepare, I could have maybe dug through some boxes to see if I had a couple Game Informers still. I know I had like a huge stack, but I did like throw a bunch of shit away a long time ago.
Yeah, I have a box, but it's in my storage unit. I thought about going and getting it, but I was like, nah, it's not worth it. But yeah, there was a good period there when I was subscribed, and like I'd say recently, in the past maybe 2 to 5 years, they've really like since it's been more of like a direct to consumer product. They haven't had to fill the cover with everything that's in the book and like, you know, all of the ads kind of around it, you know what I mean, like you know how so many magazines have to have what articles you're going to see in it. So it was always just bam, cover story, and it was so elegant and honestly really beautiful. A lot of times the art that they would feature on there was always like exciting to see what's going to be the cover story and what's the art for the month.
I'm pulling up just some covers as we go along.
But yeah, I mean, they're awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at this shit.
I mean, we're just going through our stories, right? About like
exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For me, it was always something to look forward to. Like, I would say the height of it was probably GameCube era for me, where I was
100%.
really like,
fuck yeah.
I was looking into the guides, I was looking into like previews for like, oh, what's this rumored console? What's this like crazy video game that's doing something new and fresh and exciting? And they would always have like, they would tease you too, right? Like even in the magazine, they would do like fun teases. And I remember they did one. One of my favorite issues of theirs was the Gaff Game Informer. I don't know. It was just like a, I can't remember the name of it. I'll look it up. But it was basically the joke one, and it was all of the memes of gaming and stuff at the time. It was just
nice.
And they would write like fake articles about like non-existent games and like non-existent consoles.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Let me see, but that was always my favorite one. I'm gonna try to find the name real quick.
Yeah, they had sort of like a joke section. I also liked in the front. There was like, wasn't there like fan art and stuff like that, or like they would
or they'd have like letters to the editor, and then they would put out requests for fan art. It was
was really cool too, and they would have like the where they would feature community stuff like that as well, where people would submit it. I thought that was always fun to watch that. And people would tell like stories about their experiences, like with certain things too.
Totally,
was always
yeah.
fun.
Before E3 was covered in the way that it is now, where there was so many like everyone's got their showcases broadcasted to YouTube and things like that. Before, or like even before Twitch was really a thing, I remember going to the Game Informer like E3 book most of the time and like really looking at all of the coverage that way. That was the first time I had ever like heard of E3 was through. I don't know if it was Game Informer, but it probably was. Their breakdown of everything that would have been seen at E3, that kind of thing. So.
It was called Game Infarcer. You have to look up on images to get covers of it because Game Informer itself is down. So anything that would pull up.
So weird, man. I know. I was just trying to look at like some old articles from Game Informer, and you can't even get to them right now. It's crazy.
Like, look at that. Look at the covers for those. Like, I hope they saved at least one of those issues or something because it was just wacky shit. It was just
seems pretty wacky.
Whatever gamers wished on, whatever like weird thing they wanted to do, right?
Assassin's Creek.
Yeah, exactly. Just some of my favorite writing from some of those people, right? So in general, but
Braid 2 rip time.
A link
they
between
put a lot of work
everything.
Into them.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So,
that's really amazing.
A lot of work into something fake, So I really appreciated it.
Resident Evil extra large. I love that, dude. That's great.
I remember that. I remember that cover. Yeah. No, it's good memories. Yeah, Nintendo Power was a big thing for me back in the day. I had so many Nintendo Powers, and I remember I made a big collage by cutting out all of those covers and like making a cool video game collage, which was fun. But Game Informer for a long time, and then the other thing about it was like, and kind of the piece of this puzzle in some way is like the experience of going to a GameStop and like talking maybe to some of the employees about like it was one of the places where you got to talk about games and like your enthusiasm about games. Like every time you went to a mall, right? Like, and you were doing other stuff, like maybe other people you were with wanted to go, you're like, I gotta stop at GameStop and just go in and just look at shit, even though if you're not gonna buy it, and
totally
it's just an experience that like it's just gonna be obsolete here pretty soon, and it already kind of is,
even like the EB toys or whatever, like whatever would be selling the games, you'd pop in there and talking to them. But like just the fact that like GameStop was a physical store you could go to right next to like a JCPenney or like a Target or whatever the fuck,
or a Zoomies.
Like,
Zoomies.
you walk in there and like they're trying to sell you stuff, but then you're also like, dude, man, I'm really excited for that new Halo. Really excited for that new GTA game. And they're like, oh, did you hear about this game? And like they're pointing games out at you that you never heard of. And you're right. It was like a forum for like to talk to someone about games, because it was.
And then I remember
in person
like, having.
right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's in person. No, it was like one of the only places where that could happen other than like the schoolyard with your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
But
even then I was getting made fun of for that shit. As a kid.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
sort of a safe space.
It was a safe space, exactly. And they'd have the TV, and they had like their own TV stuff that they had like the internal television that they made for it. And I remember Andrea Renee used to be always on that stuff.
Right, yeah.
And that was one of the first places I saw her, and that was so cool, like that kind of thing. I just remember like that feeling of going in and then picking up your Game Informer, because there was an option for a while where you could go pick it up instead of getting it sent to your house or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that too. And that would get you inside the GameStop, right? I mean, which they like. And you like. Even if you're not buying anything, you're like, oh, man, I really want this game, man. Maybe one day.
Yeah, that was always like, oh, look what they got on sale. Maybe if I trade in this and that, and then I can...
That's an epic cover.
Yeah, I was about to say, here's a really, really iconic cover right here.
I think I have that one.
Yeah, that's
I'll have to
awesome.
find them.
Halo Reach. Wow. Halo Reach, everything you need to know. Street Fighter X Tekken, two fighting legends join forces. That's amazing.
That.
Yeah.
Oh, man, just sad.
Yeah, it's sad, man. Also like younger. I keep thinking about all of these stories, right? About, the changing trends within the games industry, and how the biggest thing that I think it's going to affect is the next generation of gamers, or the younger generation of gamers. And you wonder, like, obviously they get their enthusiasm from so many different sources now than we did. But I just wonder what effect it has, the fact that like now so much of their stuff is going to come from TikToks or like even more removed people, right? And they don't have, or there's just the thing of like having a physical thing to hold on to, or something that makes it feel a little bit more permanent or special to you. Like, I don't know where people's ownership of their hobby lies anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a sense of detachment, right? You don't
Yeah.
have that physicality in any way. And then and community almost in a sense, right? Like
Mhm.
that face to face. You don't really get that pretty much anymore.
Unless you're
Like,
going to a PAX or something, which so many people
yeah.
aren't. You know what I mean? That's such a rare thing. Uh, but yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, even just having your old library of physical games and stuff. Um, we've seen a ton of, this is kind of a different topic, but not really. It's kind of a similar idea. Like, Best Buy stopped selling physical games and they're stopped selling physical movies now. Like,
Yep.
you're just going to have those little digital redeemer codes and stuff, which, to be fair, I am part of the problem. I'm on all, I'm all a a digital person at this point, as far as my games library goes.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the connection to your hobby or your thing that it feels like it's just gonna diminish more and more over time. So
Also like the smell, the smell, the fresh print. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know about
Yeah.
you guys, but there's just like,
100%.
yeah, like this is cool.
I mean, it's also like the smell of a book,
Yeah,
same
yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, you open it up. I mean, it's tactile. Yeah, you're right. Like the younger generation. I mean, yeah, this is Uncle Corner shit right here. But the younger
100%.
generation, like, there's things they're missing out on. I'm sure there's things we're missing out on too from like the older generations too. It's just we're on the ground level of a big shift in things, and it happens every generation, maybe multiple times a generation, but this is just another one of those, and it's just kind of weird being on like the old guy side of it. You know what I mean? Because they're like,
it just feels like, and I have no
in
real
my
evidence for
day,
this.
we had magazines. You know what a magazine is, Grandpa? You mean the thing that you mean my tablet when I just tap it and then there's articles on there?
Or the
No,
demo discs
they
and all
printed
that.
them
Like,
and they smelled good. You would open it
yeah.
up and then you might frame a part on the wall. It's like, all right, Grandpa, let's go sit down, please. You don't understand. You don't understand.
Well, they're beaming it into your brain.
Anecdotally, I totally hear you. It's like it's
Yeah.
absolutely true. We're kind of just
We're
like,
getting there.
but I honestly do wonder, and it's okay if things are going to shift and change, and that's just the way the world is. But like, I honestly do wonder. It feels to me, at least, like a lot of the big three, other than maybe Nintendo, but even them in some ways, like, aren't really catering or messaging to the youngest of the generation who are playing games, right? All of that seems to come from mobile and the trends that are come through from things like TikTok and YouTube, right? And so
Yeah.
like, part of what, like, for instance, something like this right here, I mean, Final Fantasy VII, I would even more talk about the original Final Fantasy VII, but when you're talking about these big narrative experiences and you wanted to learn about like the characters and the world and all that kind of stuff, and that was what print media I think did a really good job at, was like showing you the art of it, right? And like having you really kind of like get enticed about the story and the continuation of things like that. Hey, look at you. And
I found
it's
it.
just, I wonder if the part of the consequence of this is that those types of experiences become more and more niche, as opposed to the experiences like
Yeah.
the rinse and repeat quality of like a Fortnite or a Valorant or whatever that is.
Yeah.
World. What
I mean, culture and everything's changing. I mean, even within gaming, right? The culture in the NES era, for instance, was one dev making a beat boop game, right? Which was cool, and they could pump them out quick. And then over time, just the ballooning budgets, the ballooning sizes of the teams. But then there's progress in there too, right? Like it was always like a college parties version of a fucking job essentially for a long time, and a lot of misogyny, and then at least things develop better against that. But then you have all these layoffs too, and then late stage capitalism, and then technology changing things, and then you're right, like mobile games and you know, the free version of gaming essentially like taking over the way that like games are designed now, and that kind of bleeding over into like, you know, print publications, and you know, even like New York Times has a subscription model now, right? You can't even read an article from the New York Times unless you pay for it essentially. um it's just, again, you know, it's just, we're living in the future, things are changing. And unfortunately there's a shit ton of casualties that have to happen for things to change. It's just, what's scary about it, obviously, and again, getting into AI a little bit, is just like, where do these jobs go? Where do these people go now to do what they were just doing, right? If Game Informer can't exist, which is like the biggest fucking gaming magazine, what gaming magazine can exist? You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
PC Gamer still exists because they pivoted to like, you know, like even Kind of Funny's online and doing like headlines and stuff like that, right? But like PC Gamer's sort of doing that to some degree, I guess. I don't know if they get like money from the UK government or something. I don't know, but it's just,
Yeah, I'm
I don't
not
know.
sure exactly.
I just don't know how many magazines will exist in 10 years at all. Like,
Yeah, and maybe they won't
I
at
don't know.
all, but you know, maybe there is. I mean, there are smaller, like in the art world, for instance, being a designer, I follow some of this stuff, and there are some more like kind of like within industry, like industry people talking to other industry people magazines is kind of a still thing. Like there's one called Communication Arts, and
Mhm.
it's very much like circulated as like, hey, if you're an artist and or a designer or a photographer or whatever, like they have, you know, or an advertiser or whatever, like you should have one of these in your office and look at it because it's like the cutting edge of the trends that are happening within the industry. So like if you work in the industry, it's more like to keep up on that sort of stuff. And obviously you can find that stuff online, but it's like just a good curated version of it.
Yeah.
And that I think is run by a conglomerate or a nonprofit organization of artists and designers and advertising firms and stuff
That's
like
good.
that. So it's, you know, so it's like it is the own industry talking to itself in a certain type of way. So I could see something with that. And then also the type of enthusiasm like with Kind of Funny, which we all know and love. That is directly funded by its consumers, and I think that just
Yeah.
has to be the way that this type of thing exists. So hopefully
100%.
people like is Paul Tassi who's there, is he a Game Informer?
He's
No,
Forbes.
he's Forbes,
Forbes,
that's
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alex Van Aken,
Andy
who we know,
McNamara.
Andy McNamara, there you go.
Well, then there's what is it? The one that Gita Jackson founded with some people from Kotaku formerly. Was that
Yeah.
Overclock, or I forget? I cannot remember the name right now. But
Yes, but you know, so these kind of smaller
yeah.
grassroots projects,
Yeah.
I hope that these people can find that type of thing.
But she put out a tweet that I'm going to loosely quote off my memory right now, that just said like, you should not have to make a magazine publication with your friends to be a writer. But unfortunately,
100%.
you do at this point, it seems, unless you can find another alternate revenue stream of some sort. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like the writing was on the wall. GameStop itself has been tanking like hard. It was a meme stop for a second there, or a meme stock for a second there, but that didn't actually mean that like there was a resurgence of the brand itself. Like, I'm sure that GameStops have been closing where you guys live. I think there's still some here as well, but like over time they just won't exist anymore. It's like if you're buying a game physically, you're going to like Walmart or Target, or you're buying it on Amazon. And that's like the entire industry now. It's like mostly just Amazon, right? Or just online, or digitally through the platform itself. Like I buy all my games through either Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, even Nintendo, all digitally. You know what I mean? And I mean, that brings us back to, again, physical in general, physical magazines, physical books. I mean, people like to collect those at least. I mean, the same thing with vinyl. At least people are still collecting that. But like, for how long? I just don't know. Everything is digital now, and I don't know. It's just, things are changing, man. It's weird. It's so weird, dude.
A sign of the times.
Yeah.
We move away from
It's unfortunate.
physicality, right?
Yeah.
So,
Like, here's a Dino Crisis cover right here.
this is a trip on the stone path to all digital, right? So
I think so. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
applaud people that still like, like Limited Run or
Sure.
people who actually do buy physical stuff. Like keep doing that. I mean, I know it's becoming more of a novelty, but the more that you support something, and this goes like what you were saying, like kind of funny or even New York Times, right? If you like something, support it. Like, give them a monthly subscription, like because the money's has to come from somewhere. And if you really care about something, you support them. Like the least I could do is I subscribe to a couple Twitch channels like monthly. I use my Prime sub specifically for like friends and smaller streamers, but I just straight up subscribe to that, and then I'm subscribed to like one Patreon, $5 a month. I mean, and it's like maybe I could give more. I'm not made of money here, but at least I'm trying to like do what I can.
Forgo a couple energy drinks and give it to somebody who is
Yeah.
using and making something that you love, right?
Or even if you just buy a shirt, right? Like I got a Hello from the Magic Tavern T-shirt because I love that podcast. I got a Last Podcast in the Left T-shirt. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I got a kind of funny fucking XCast hat right before XCast died. I mean, how do you support the creators you love? Like this is, I mean, it's assuming they don't have fucked up corporate overlords. Like definitely support indie people and people trying to run their own business for sure.
My question would be, are we going to see the crew try to make something new, right? Like with it being dead now, they basically just friggin' killed it unceremoniously, left us with a paragraph or two and was like, all right, screw you. I hope that they would get together and then people would support something. Maybe it wouldn't be writing. Maybe it would be like online content creator shit like we do, right? Like there's a lot of good people there. There's a lot of good voices at that place, and I hope that they find a good place to settle.
Yep, totally.
I think so.
We'll,
I'm sure that
we'll
like
keep an eye out.
Good amount of them will end up either starting their own thing or joining something, or you know what I mean? Because these people are really talented. Like I know the game devs, it's sort of a different story because at least with writers, they can just like write stuff and like try to band together and make something. Like 25,000 game devs losing their jobs over the course of 2 years. Don't know where the jobs can come from. It's not easy to just start a game dev studio because there's a lot of money and stuff involved. I mean, you could do indie games, but then there's like, you need a day job, And so like, that's more like troubling to me and even more sad. But at least you can be like a freelance writer. I mean, I know you still got to grind. I know it's not as simple as that, but at least they might have more of a chance of rebounding. I hope. You know?
I hope so too. And then, it'd be cool to see some unique projects, some Patreons, like you said, or, some video game zines that maybe people pay for in some way, like something more like small scale. I'm cool with that in some more digestible way. Whatever, we'll see. So we wish all of them luck, and we will keep track of them going forward. And, I'm sure you'll hear more about this type of stuff on NGD and maybe NPD videos as well. So any final thoughts on this, guys? Let's get out of here and get to the rest of today's content. But yeah, rest in peace, Game Informer. It's been a long road, and we loved it along the way. And just thanks for all the hard work. And yeah, anything else you guys want to say before we get out of here?
I just pulled up I found it. It's aftermath.site. That's Gita Jackson and company's site. It does have a subscription if you want to read the articles, of course. But cool. This is just an example of something that people can do. Luke Plunkett, Riley McCloy, or McLeod, I think. Chris Person, who's the guy who does the weekly, what do you call it? Highlight reel YouTube show or whatever YouTube series. Definitely check that out. But yeah, like seeing this kind of thing, it sucks that it has to be done, but I hope that Game Informer can do something similar, or at least some of the people that work there. And again, I just trying to put visibility on like another like kind of indie publication. Keep an eye out for any kind of new ones, but check out
This has been a Neon topic discussion podcast for August 4th. We are here, just in your feed, just making different types of content. We got tier lists.
I'm in your
we
feed.
got reviews, we got previews, we've got demo breakdowns, we've got a lot of stuff over here on the youtube.com/@neon gaming dimension section of the Neon Pocket Dimension. And for our regular weekly podcast on Neon Pocket Dimension, check out right here on twitch.tv/npd, that's Neon Pocket Dimension, or at youtube.com/@neon pocket dimension, and you'll find all that stuff. Lots of content coming your way, so keep it tuned to us for more stuff like this if you like it. And you can see it all and everything that we do on our Twitter, and you can follow us there at NPD Squad for more. So we'll be back in your feed soon with some more content, and thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Peace.
Thank you so much for playing my game.